Welcome to another episode of A Word with Joy. This is Joy Bennett, your producer and host. Today we are absolutely thrilled to have a special guest that hails all the way from Auckland, New Zealand. So it's early in the morning tomorrow there in Auckland. Very, very special guest, Dick Wybrow. Dick is a radio executive. He's been on the air entertaining millions. He's been on TV in 213 countries. He has been a successful writer, and he also is a stand-up comedian. So I'm very, very thrilled to have Dick Wybrow here. Dick, welcome.
Hi, thanks. And you actually get us right into a conversation because I was in Auckland, New Zealand, and I have since moved to Christchurch. And I know a lot of us don't exactly know, because I wouldn't have known for the most part, but that's two different islands. And so we had to drive 1,000 kilometers, which is about 650 miles or so. But that also included a 3-hour ferry ride to be able to move house, which we took down a dog and 2 cats.
Oh my
goodness.
And
you really don't know much about yourself until you've traveled 1,000 kilometers with 3 pets in the car.
Wow. So now you're on an island.
You find out a lot about yourself.
You're on an island now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both islands. It was a matter of I don't think I've ever done the ferry ride with the vehicle, especially because we had to leave the dog and cats in the vehicle. We expected to come back and just see it torn, just foam in his steering wheel. But no, they did really great. They were entirely fine the entire time. So yeah, we're now in Christchurch, which is so farther away from the equator, so it's a little bit chillier here, but it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful down here. Everywhere you go is a picture postcard. It's we're really blessed to be here.
Sounds wonderful. I have some friends whose her daughter and son-in-law moved to New Zealand, and they had to take this. At the time we lived in upstate New York, she would have to travel all the way over there, but it was absolutely gorgeous. They'd make the trek once or twice a year, and I've always wanted to go. Well, Dick, you have a background in radio, so here I am interviewing a heavily experienced radio personality. Do you have any advice for fellow podcasters that what to do and what not to do? I know you just said I tend to say too many ums, and you gave me a great piece of advice just before we started. It's just silence. Don't be afraid of it. Just let it be. So any tips?
Silence is really powerful. You know, because people expect, especially when it comes to radio or podcasting, they expect people to be talking the whole time. And so if I'm speaking to you, if I'm saying something and I pause, what's he about to say? So don't be afraid of the silence at all. And really when it comes down to podcasting, it's just like radio, just speak from the heart. I think people know when they're being broadcast to. I did television. I was a television producer for about 20 years. I did radio for about a dozen or so. And radio, like podcasting, is a one-on-one conversation. You know, television, to some extent, are people sitting down watching TV with a group of people, maybe a family, maybe some roommates. But podcasting and radio is really special that way because it's just me and you the entire time. The person listening to this podcast isn't listening with a group of friends, for the most part. Yeah. And that's an intimate conversation. And I think that's the main part of having a conversation like this, is knowing that it's between me and you, me and Joy, but it's also between this third person, almost like you and me are sitting there at a table and they're just kind of hanging out, listening in. And I think you've always got to keep that person in mind and how you're explaining something or how you're talking to somebody, something, because that's a real gift that they're giving us their time.
Also,
which
you're
is
a stand-up comedian. Do you still do any stand-up at all, or?
I haven't done it for a couple of years because we've been in New Zealand for about 10 years now. I did stand up all through my radio career, but even though I grew up with a new Kiwi father, a New Zealand parent, and one of the things that got me into doing stand up, I suppose, was this idea of trying to make him laugh, because it's kind of hard to make Kiwis laugh. Yeah, which is not encouraging for somebody to get up on stage knowing that here's a group of people that don't like to necessarily laugh. So, but yeah, at some point I'd love to do stand up.
Yeah. Tough audience.
Yeah, it's just how they express themselves. It's just a bit different. Where, like, you know, American audiences are much more boisterous. British too, you know, are really getting into it. Kiwis are just more subtle, are
Yeah,
just kind of more reserved. And
yeah,
but I like it. But I like
yeah.
their style.
You like the challenge.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
believe it or not, I did stand up a long, long time ago at the Holy City Zoo in San Francisco, and I
right,
did okay. I would have my
right,
little prepared, jokes, and I'd go up there, and I was 30 something at the time.
right.
So I remember one friend. I had a friend come with me, and one of the comedians said, because you had to get two friends in to kind of help the show and help them out. And I had one lady friend who was rather large, and he said, "Oh, you have to have two." I said, "Well, she counts for two."
I'm right.
Anyway, it was fun. It was very challenging. Whenever I get pressured, I realize you don't have to make this person laugh. Stand-up comedy is the most intense. I mean, it was intense. I think I did okay, but I was like, you know what? Stick to the writing.
Yeah, stand-up comedy, it's like any sort of medium, like with radio, people always go, "Oh, I should do radio or podcasting because I really like to talk," or people say that I talk a lot. It's like that's not the metric.
Yeah.
And with stand-up comedy, it's about the jokes for sure, but it's really about the attitude you bring to stage.
Yeah.
Coming, grabbing the mic and just knowing that what you're saying is funny, or grabbing the
Mhm.
mic and almost it's very much about the writing, but it's a lot of it is about presentation, and that's why when you go to a stand-up show and then you go to work the next day, hey, this comedian said this joke, they go, huh,
Yeah. That's it.
because that comic was able to craft that writing in a way that made it funny.
Yeah. And I noticed you've incorporated humor into your writing, which is, believe it or not, a combination of horror and humor, which is really quite effective. He's done very, very well on Amazon. I think you said you have some best-selling books on Amazon
Yeah,
now.
surprisingly,
So
it's doing quite well. I got an amazing,
awesome.
beautiful note last night from a reader. And I mean, this is what I love about the writing side of it. It's the creation and putting it all together. But when you sort of touch somebody, a complete stranger, because this person Googled my name, whatever it was, after reading some first portion of the book, about halfway through the book, took time to Google it, to go to my website, to find the contact form, to fill it out and send it
Hmm.
halfway through reading the book, and had said something to the effect that it kind of detailed the progression of this one particular scene with Kane, and was talking about how loud and how almost breathless she was with laughter, to the point where her husband came in from the other room to check on her. Yeah, and that's an amazing
That's
that's such a joy
amazing.
to
Yeah.
know that you're helping somebody get there, especially today when things aren't always so laugh filled all
We
around us.
need to laugh. We need to laugh so, so badly.
Yeah.
I love what you said. In his spare time, Dick likes to write, quote, autobiographies in the third person. That's really what fiction writing is. I mean,
Yeah.
when I'm writing a character, I am that character. I
Sure.
might be a man in his 30s, but I am that man, or I
Yeah.
am that teenager, or that's the only way you can, at least me, emotionally process the thought of transplanting yourself into that character. And that's what's so fun about it and challenging. But
That's what's so fun about writing bad guys, because you get to
yeah,
explore that part of your personality.
yeah, I don't know. I don't do horror. I tried to write horror one time. I was like, I can't do this. I'm scared. I'm scaring
Mine
myself. There's
and
just
mine's
something about it. I
less.
can do other genres just fine. Horror, oh,
Mine
can't
is
do
more,
it.
yeah, supernatural.
Yeah,
Because yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know if I could take myself seriously enough to do horror. Maybe
yeah,
because horror and comedy have a bit of a symbiotic relationship.
yeah,
I could try. I'll try it someday. But yeah, mine's more yeah, supernatural style.
yeah, yeah. I can do sci-fi. Science fiction is okay, but not horror. Anyway, what's so good about Dick though is he is originally Canadian,
Yeah.
grew up in the United States, and now he's
Yep.
in New Zealand. So you've been all over the world. You've worked as a TV producer, radio
Yep.
announcer, author, primetime television production. I mean, really a huge, extensive professional background. And I love the way he said, I can. This is from his biography on the site where I met you. Dick wrote this. Everyone has a creative spirit, something to offer the world. The trick is to take that little flame within and fan it into a bonfire. Then feed it so it grows into a wildfire. Together, you and I can help your listeners do that. Well, that was my hook, and that I sent that out there because I originally did a search just for comedians. I thought, oh, it'd be fun to have somebody who can make people laugh.
Right.
And there's a lot more that you have to offer rather than just, not to say that's not wonderful. So what about your days as a writer? Are you up at 6 a.m. working till noon, or how's your day as a writer get structured?
Yeah, the process for me is normally in the early morning hours. I'm up at 5:30 every morning, and it either is via alarm or it's a cat paws in my face demanding I get up and give them treats. It's one of the two. But then I sit down at the computer. I spend probably about half an hour just sort of reading a little bit to kind of get my head into the space. I have 3 or 4 cups of coffee by that time. But I end up, I write for I write a couple of hours, and there's some days where, you might write 1,000 words. There's other days, I've had days where I've written 8,000 words, which is madness.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot.
It keeps going. But
And it's good stuff.
this is something that I sort of learned as I've written is that there is a moment where you're just not productive anymore. And that's the time to put that aside and work on another aspect of the writing, be it editing or some marketing or something like this. But you've got a window of about 2 hours.
Hemingway always said, put a note for your next sentence, stop there for the next day, put a note for your next sentence, and then you can keep going, which I think is a good piece of advice. I always say, well, where do I want to go next? So the mom comes home from, the nursing home and she's pissed or whatever it might be. And that'll keep, okay, that's where I was. So that's good. The thing that Dick is unusual about him is he's has narcolepsy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to interfere too much with your daily life, or how does that affect?
You learn to cope with it. When I was younger, my father used to tease me and say, "Oh, he's going through another growth spurt." It's funny because I'm barely 5'8", so so obviously that wasn't happening. But then years later, I ended up going and discovering, not by my own volition, really, I discovered that I had narcolepsy. The person I was married to at the time was going in for. She was convinced that she had narcolepsy, some sleep disorder. And no joke, I'm standing in there and I'm sort of supporting her at the time and answering some questions that the doctor might have. And the doctor looked at her and says, "I don't think you have narcolepsy, but I think he might." And I went, "What?" And that seemed like such an out of the blue. And so I did the sleep test and everything. And sure enough, they discovered I had narcolepsy. And for those who don't know,
how often does it occur? Every day?
All day. All day long. Yep. All day long. Constantly. Yep. All day long. I am sleepy all day long.
Well, so am I, but that's getting older. I'm 69.
It's
I guess it's different. I'm not about to fall asleep. I might be tired.
It's pretty next level. And for a long time, I didn't tell a lot of people about it, but then I got more comfortable with it. And I would tell people, say, "Listen, I have narcolepsy." I actually had this conversation just the other day with somebody. We're sitting down with the woman who rented us his house. At the beginning of the conversation, because we're moving so much, I said, "Hey, listen, just so you know, I have narcolepsy. So if I go quiet on you or stare off and not hear what you say, that's just me, because I'll phase out. There'll be times where I'm just gone, and then I'll come back. And it's almost like you're sleeping sitting up."
Huh.
But we were talking a little bit about this ahead of time. I actually find narcolepsy, because you have to sort of embrace it in some way, right? This is something that's going to be permanent in my life. So it's not like I can fight it because it's a part of me. It'd be like fighting my arm, And so I've decided, or I've sort of discovered a bit, that I think it helps with my creative process, because I'm in sort of a sleep-wake state 85% of the day. I'm always sleepy, but best way I can describe it is, how when you're lying down at night and you're about to go to sleep and you get those ideas coming into your head, you're like, "Oh, that's amazing. I should write that down. Oh, I'll remember that for the morning." And then you wake up the next day and you don't remember, and you didn't write it down.
Write it down. I've learned that the hard way.
But that little sort of sleep wake sort of space, I'm in there most of my day. And so I think a lot of my creativity comes from that. The sort of stuff that I write is unusual, and I accept that. It's kind of an unusual idea. And so
that's because you're extremely productive. I mean, you've got so many books, your output is amazing.
5 books I did in the last year, and I'm writing a 6th one now for another series, which I should get out here in the next 2 months. So I'm prolific.
Huh. Yeah. Amazing. What about, you have pets?
Yeah.
2 cats and 1 dog, and they're all getting settled in and everybody's enjoying the new house?
Somewhat settled in, I mean, if you've got cats, because our dog is nuts. He's like a king calf. He's one of these little dogs that has like They look meth-addled. They're just like the entire time. He just never stops. He just running at 10 until suddenly he crashes and he's out. We have two cats that are very, very outdoor cats. But since we've moved into a new property, we got to keep them in for at least a week. It's better if you keep them in 2 weeks. But they're driving us nuts. They really, really want to break out. So there's a lot of sniffing around doorways. One tried to get out of a window. The crack was only about a third the size of their body, and she was halfway down, and she almost out, just trapped halfway in the window. So yeah. But
we have one dog, a Cavapoo, and 2 cats, but the cats are indoor. They're very happily sleeping. They're older. And the dog is, in and out, take his walks and things. But he's a kind of a couch potato too.
Yeah, no, we've got chaos animals. But I don't know what happened. We got chaos animals.
I love our animals. They're wonderful. What about new projects? I know you're working on another book.
So what I've done is so I had written another series, which was more comedy, almost on the verge of farcical. This other series.
What's the title of that?
That series is the Hellink series. And that series, basically it's about a guy that his wife is dying. All the doctors say, make some arrangements. And he goes like, no, I'm going to come up with something else. So he goes down to the crossroads and he makes a deal with the devil to save his wife's life. And the devil says, all right, fine. You want that? Go find this lamp. There's 4 pieces scattered around the world. Put this together. That'll save her life. And so this is this adventure that he goes on to do this. But in the end, of course, the devil wants the lamp for himself because it's powerful, this sort of thing. And so I'd written 8 books in that series. I was about to write the 9th. And then I got the inspiration to do this Kane series. Yeah. And I knocked out 5 books in that Kane series in a year. Wow. So now I got to go back and write that final book in the Hellink series.
That's amazing. 5 books in a year?
But, you and I were sort of alluding to this before. It's like when those characters are kind of flowing through you, when you're in that flow creative state,
they tell you what to do.
Yeah.
They really do. Yeah. Even if it's something you may not, I didn't know we're going to do that. Yes, we are.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you do have to kind of rein them in a little bit because they'll take you off planet.
It's so fun, I'll tell you. Yeah. Anyway, definitely I'll probably shoot you some of my writing and get some input because you're an old pro at that stuff. So that's good. I love the advice that he gave me. Silence is okay for ums, and speak from the heart about podcasting. I love that. Yep. It's a one-on-one with the guest and one-on-one with the audience. It's a very close thing. It's not like I have an audience of thousands. So I love that. What about, do you have weekends off, or do you take, because I try to at least take a little bit of a break on Saturday and Sunday, but I don't know.
I take, for the most part, I take Sundays off, but my head's always, there's writing is either sitting down and typing on a computer, but also there's a lot of writing was just walking around.
Yeah.
I ride a motorcycle, and when I'm riding between places, because that silence, it's almost meditative, right? Because you got to focus on people not killing you. So, especially New Zealand, they're very quiet. They're very calm people, but then they get behind the wheel and they take all of that sort of pent up sort of aggression and frustration and they take it out on you. And so there is a very sort of focused, meditative sort of state when I'm riding on my motorcycle. And I get a lot of writing done then. It's just a matter of trying to remember all those bits and pieces as I'm riding along. And so I try to come up with memory games to kind of keep all that stuff in. But some of my best writing I do is when I'm on 2 wheels.
Yeah. What I do is I put little notes on my phone or little jot stuff down, or I've even sometimes recorded messages or sent myself a text.
Sure.
You have to remember those ideas because those are the
harder to do on the motorcycle. I mean, I could get like a mic or something.
Pull over.
Exactly.
Dick, don't do it.
I have done that.
I'm sure you have. Anything else you'd like to add that we haven't gotten a chance to get to?
No, I mean, other than, like you mentioned, I've written the 5th book in the Kane series that has just come out, Kane Unmanned. And it's funny because when you mentioned earlier the idea of it being horror, and there's no slight, I'm totally fine with that. It's kind of a hard book to define. Basically, it's supernatural humor I suppose, but it's got a werewolf in it. So I guess that's kind of horror. But basically, the idea behind it, if people don't know Kane, is Kane was a wolf in the forest when this crazed man bit him. And the next day, Kane woke up a 6'7" French Canadian. Now, he was a wolf that's now this human. When the moon comes out, the full moon comes out, he turns into a werewolf. But as a bit of a selfish writer, I was thinking to myself, I don't want to wait 28 days, 29 days for the fun stuff, right? So I started to think, and as far as I can tell, no one's ever done this before. I was thinking, why not a half moon or quarter moon? Why not those moon phases? Why wouldn't those also? So I thought, how would this affect this man who was a wolf who turns into a werewolf with the full moon? How would it affect him? So I started to think, well, maybe the half moon or quarter moon, then he's in a lesser state. So like a lesser wolf. And so, of course, a lesser wolf is a dog. So if it's a quarter moon, he turns into kind of a smaller dog. If it's a bit of a half moon, he turns into a bit of a larger dog. If it's 3/4 moon, he turns into like a Rottweiler. So this story is about him when the moon comes out. Depending on the moon phase, he can turn into various types of dogs throughout the entire story. And he's got this woman named Imelda, because wolves who turn into humans, turns out they can't drive. It doesn't make any sense to them. So she's a former criminal, former getaway driver. She becomes his driver. And it's the two of them that are trying to find the secret that could turn him back into a wolf again, because he wants to return to his pack. And that's basically the storyline. Yeah.
That sounds just fascinating. Well, I urge you
it's a lot of fun.
I urge you to check out Dick Wybrow's books on Amazon. He's got them up there for sale. He's a tremendously productive writer. His website is dickwybrow.com. That's DICKWYBROW.com. He also has Instagram presence. It's at Dick Wybrow, which is a cute Instagram. And he's all over on all there. And definitely check his Amazon books out and his website. Very, very nice to have you here. We have a couple more minutes. Let's see. What else should we talk about? I could talk to you all day. I really could. So I mean, coming along. Do you have a lot of work to do at the house? I guess it's rented, so it's in good shape.
Yeah, there is quite a bit, but you got to be careful because for people that are listening to the podcast can't quite see it, but you might be able to notice there. I don't know if you can see this pinky here doesn't quite match the rest of the rest of my fingers because I was hauling and I was taking all this dirt before we came here, and I was pulling because you've got to fix because we were selling our house, and you got to fix the lawn, you got to pack everything up, and so I was hauling all of these boxes, all this dirt, and the only way I could do it was actually bring it through the house, and I knew that if my wife saw me, she'd get really, really mad. So I was dragging it through the house, and I was rushing. And then the wheelbarrow was basically this plastic wheelbarrow, looked like a play school wheelbarrow, was starting to fall. And I grabbed it with my hand and I looked at my glove, and the finger in the glove didn't look right. And thankfully I had the glove on, because if I had seen my hand look like that, I wouldn't have dealt with that very well. But in the glove, it's just there's something wrong with the glove. I need to fix that. And so I just grabbed it and put it back into place, which was nuts. So yeah, I dislocated my fingers. So that was
sounds like something for the doctor. I think you should go to the doctor. Have you seen a dislocation?
Yeah, I've been to in New Zealand we have state-funded healthcare, and so but I was able to speak to my doctor on Zoom or on webcam, and we have something here called ACC, which is accident and something care. I can't remember what the other one is, but basically I can go there and they'll give me some exercises and I can work it out. But yeah. But no, so now I'm feeling back in my hand. And at this moment, my life consists of writing and putting together flat pack furniture. And if you've ever put together flat pack furniture, picture basically 3 rooms of flat pack furniture. And it's torture. It's awful.
My God. That's one thing I do not like to do is move.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Because you open up the box.
Older, you get more stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
It is the third circle of hell. I can't.
Open up the box and it's literally 80 pieces. That's not how is that supposed to go together? I don't understand. So that's what I do for a living. I write and I put together furniture.
Yeah. Well, delightful to talk with you, Dick. I urge you to visit dickwybrow.com for more information about Dick. And thank you so much for coming all the way from Christchurch, New Zealand. We are so grateful to have you here. My name is Joy Bennett. For more information about my writing background, go to joybennett.com. For the information about the podcast, you can visit awordwithjoy.com. Feel free to get in touch. Send me an email, like and share the podcast, and hit that little star on Spotify and follow all that stuff. We are so happy to be taping just about once a week, if not every 2 weeks. So there'll be more episodes coming up. And we are so grateful for our listeners and our guests. This is really kind of taken off here. I'm very, very grateful. And I wanted to thank you again, Dick, for coming in. I know you're a very busy person. Best of luck with your little finger there and all your writing endeavors. And thank you again. Joy Bennett, thank you and good night.